The Montana wind howled through the Bitterroot Valley, a feral beast clawing at snow-heavy pines near Alder Gulch. 1873. Elias Boone, 48, lean as a fence post and tough as rawhide, moved through the dusk, his boots crunching the frozen earth like a metronome of grief. His wool greatcoat, patched at the elbows, flapped against a faded flannel shirt, and his wide-brimmed hat shadowed eyes that had forgotten how to hope. 11 winters alone in this wilderness had bent his frame, not with age, but with loss, each season piling on like snow on a sagging barn. His beard was gray as ash, hands scarred from axe and trapline, and his voice, when it stirred, was a low rumble, worn smooth by months without reply. Once, he'd been a husband, a father, 3 summers of laughter. Then fever stole them in a week, back when he thought love could anchor a life against time's pull. His cabin crouched in a clearing of cedar and fir, its logs weathered but tight, a half-buried picket fence guarding nothing but memory. Inside, embers glowed in a stone hearth, casting warmth over stacked firewood, a pot of venison stew simmering low, and a quilt his wife's, its blue patches faded folded at the foot of a narrow bed. Each night, Elias lit a dented lantern and carved pinewood toys, deer, owls, once a tiny banjo. He left them along the trapline, offerings to a world that never answered. No one claimed them, but he carved on, as if whittling could keep ghosts at bay. That evening, the sky burned amber, bruised with clouds like spilled ink. Snow fell thick, muffling the world's pulse. Elias stood at the forest's edge, axe slung over his shoulder, staring into the white void, a man who'd stopped waiting but couldn't stop looking. Then, a sound pierced the silence hoofbeats, frantic, uneven, like a heart skipping toward ruin. He turned toward the old stagecoach trail, a ribbon of ruts half buried in snow, its curves deadly in winter. The sound grew louder, a horse's scream cutting through. Elias's breath steamed. He dropped the axe and ran, his coat snapping like a flag. The fire bloomed before the wreck, a furious orange flower bursting through the pines. The smell hit next charred wood, spilled kerosene, and something acrid, human. A stagecoach lay crumpled in a gulch, its wheels spinning uselessly, canvas roof ablaze, licking the sky like a hungry tongue. One horse lay broken, the other reared, tangled in traces, eyes wild. A child's cry sharp, desperate split the crackling. Elias didn't think. He plunged through the snow, boots sinking, heart pounding like a war drum. The driver was gone, thrown, or fled, no matter. But behind the wreck, half buried in snow and thorns, 2 small figures clung together, twin girls, 5 years old, their calico dresses torn, faces smudged with ash, arms locked like roots entwined. He knelt, his shadow falling soft. "Easy, now," he said, voice low as a prayer, steady as a river stone. "You're not alone." One whimpered, a sound like a wounded bird. The other stared, eyes wide with a fear older than her years, as if she'd seen the world burn and expected it again. Elias stripped off his greatcoat, wrapped it around them, and lifted both light as kindling, heavy as fate. One arm cradled their knees, the other their trembling backs. Behind him, the coach shuddered, its frame collapsing in a shower of sparks. He didn't look back. Snow swallowed his tracks, but he knew the path, a deer trail twisting through cedars, past a frozen creek, over the rise where he'd buried his daughter under a cairn of river stones. The wind clawed his face, but the girls burrowed closer, too cold to cry, their breaths small clouds against his chest. He kicked open the cabin door, shouldered it shut, and knelt by the hearth. The fire's warmth hit like a memory of summer. He set them on a bearskin rug, piling quilts his wife's, his daughter's over their shaking forms. Their eyes, wide and mismatched, followed him as he stoked the flames, adding logs until the room glowed gold. One girl shivered violently, shock sinking in. The other curled into her, a shell around a pearl. He ladled stew into a tin mug, cooled it with his breath, and held it to their lips. "Sip slow," he murmured. "You're safe now." They sipped, hands trembling, broth spilling on chins. Then the smaller one, hair black as coal, eyes sharp as flint, whispered, "Mama." Elias froze. The word a knife in his ribs. He stared into the fire, its flames dancing like ghosts. "I don't know where she is," he said, soft as snow falling. "But if she's out there, she's searching. And if this world's got any mercy left, she'll find you." The twin blinked, then reached for a carved owl on the hearth. Wings spread as if soaring. Her fingers hesitated, seeking permission. Elias nodded. She clutched it like a talisman, her sister mirroring her grip. That night, the cabin hummed with something new, not full, but no longer a hollow shell. Elias sat in a creaking rocker, eyes half closed, rifle across his knees. The girls slept on the rug, curled like kittens, their breaths sinking with the fire's crackle. The storm raged outside, rattling shutters, and far off. A coyote howled. Elias didn't stir. He whispered a name into the dark Clara. His wife had dreamed of a house alive with children's spoons clattering, stories by the fire. She'd gotten a daughter's laugh in a grave. Now, 2 girls slept under his roof, smelling of smoke and needing a man who could keep the cold at bay. He leaned forward, tossed a log into the flames, and murmured, "I'll keep the lamp burning, long as you need." Dawn broke, brittle and clear, the world a prism of ice. Every cedar glistened, every branch sagged under frost's weight. Elias fetched wood, his breath catching at the stillness beauty sharp enough to cut. He'd seen countless mornings here, but this one was different, alive with purpose. Inside, the girls stirred. One asked for water, voice a fragile thread. The other said, "I'm Lila." The younger was Ivy. Their words were tentative, but they were speaking. He sliced bread, spread it with honey, and quartered a shriveled apple. They ate slowly, eyes down, saving trust for later. He let them. Then Lila pointed to a red flash outside a fox darting past. Elias's mouth twitched, a rare smile. "She visits most mornings. Call her Red Ember." The girls giggled, a sound like bells in a silent valley, loosening a knot in his chest. He carved them toys before dusk, a wolf with a curled tail for Lila, a sparrow with open wings for Ivy. He handed them over, saying nothing, watching their fingers close like they were claiming pieces of the world. Lila asked, softer now. Mama Elias crouched by the fire, its light painting his face in shadows. "If heaven's got rivers," he said, "she's crossing them to find you." They nodded, as if his words were gospel. "Maybe she is," Ivy whispered. But just as the fire settled to embers, A sound cut through snow crunching, deliberate, not animal. Someone approached. The wind stilled, snow piling on the windowsill like a held breath. The cabin, once a tomb, now breathed. Elias felt it in the creak of the floorboards, the way the air softened with Lila and Ivy under his quilts. They moved like wary fawns those first days, Ivy trailing Lila, her second shadow. Lila scanning the cabin, noting the door's bolt, the axe by the hearth, the man who'd pulled them from fire to this cedar-scented haven. They spoke little. Elias didn't push. He knew silence was a language of survival. Still, he kept the fire roaring, the kettle steaming. He stirred honey into their cornbread, and when Ivy fumbled her spoon, he slid another across without a word. By the third morning, they watched him split wood indoors, the blizzard locking them in a white cage. He swung the axe slow, rhythmic, letting the thuds echo like a heartbeat. Lila asked, "Is it always so quiet?" Elias paused, axe poised, then sank it deep. "Most days," he said. The girls exchanged a look, twin speak, a silent conversation. He let it be. The cabin warmed, not just from fire, but from their unfolding. Lila lined books on the shelf, tallest to shortest, her hands precise. Ivy hummed tuneless scraps of lullabies, half remembered. And when she found a pressed violet in a Bible, she set it on the windowsill like an altar. Their small hands carried grief too big for their years. They didn't ask his story, nor he theirs, not yet. Their eyes, Lila's especially, held a vigilance beyond their age, as if trust was a coin they'd spent and couldn't afford again. Elias gave them room to breathe. Mornings, he boiled water for washing, letting them choose socks from his trunk too big, but warm. At noon, they sat by him as he carved, Ivy mimicking his knife strokes, her tongue out in focus. He carved them toys, a fox with keen eyes for Lila, a hare with listening ears for Ivy. They took them silently, cradling them like relics of a lost world. Winter nights came fast, light dying by 4, the cabin aglow with lantern light. On the 5th night, Lila asked to help with the stew, standing on a stool, stirring with care. Elias handed her dried sage, and she sprinkled it like a ritual. They ate in easy silence, the kind that didn't need filling. Then Ivy asked about the bear on the shelf bigger, its face softer, eyes heavy with sorrow. Elias stared at it, long and quiet. "My girl loved bears," he said, voice barely above the fire's crackle. "Carved it for her." Lila's gaze sharpened. "Where's she now gone?" he said, plain as stone. "Like your mama? Maybe past the stars." Lila nodded. "Folks always leave." Ivy's brow furrowed. "Mama didn't mean to." Elias tossed a log into the fire, flames flaring like a vow. He looked at them, cross-legged, toys in laps, socks sagging on small feet. They were ghosts made flesh, stepped from a dream to his hearth. He couldn't say he'd lost faith in miracles, couldn't explain that life sometimes gave only scraps warmth, water, a safe night. But they were here, breathing, inching toward the fire each night like moths to a flame. One night, Lila stood at the door, staring into the white abyss. The storm had eased, the sky a cold forge of stars. "She's out there," she whispered. Elias stood behind, silent, sharing her vigil. He felt it, the weight of their untold story, their hidden scars. "She'll come," Ivy said, sleepy, at their side. Elias knelt, And if she can't, you're safe here. I swear it. Lila's eyes met his. You mean it. He weighed his soul in that moment's hush. You make promises, she asked. Rarely, he said. Almost never. She nodded, content. Ivy leaned into him, yawning. As they slept on the rug, Elias carved a figure, a woman in a long cloak, one arm raised as if beckoning. He didn't know why, only that he needed to believe someone was coming, someone with frost in her hair and fire in her heart. Morning sun blazed on the snow, sharp as broken glass. Lila folded quilts. Ivy swept ash by the hearth. When Elias checked traps, they trailed him, steps eager, carrying a basket, choosing the path home. He saw Ivy limp, wincing when she thought he wasn't looking. That evening, he checked her foot, a shallow cut near her heel. He washed it with warm water, bound it with clean linen. She bit her lip, silent. When he finished, she whispered, Mama did it like that. Said it's how you know someone cares. Elias looked at her. Then the cut, its faint red stain. She was right, he said. That night, Lila slept closer to the fire. Ivy curled beside her. Elias tucked their quilts, mimicking Clara's old ritual. Then came the knock 3 hard blows. No mistaking. Not wind, not beast. He rose, hand grazing the rifle. Boots soft on the floor. He opened the door. Wind rushed in, bitter, smelling of leather and ice. A figure stood framed in snow, cloaked in burgundy velvet, stark against the white. A woman, eyes fierce, sweeping the room, hands unsteady, a silver locket at her throat. Elias didn't move. She spoke one word, voice cracking. My daughters? Behind him. Lila sat up. Ivy stirred, and the snow seemed to pause, then fell again. She stood like a statue carved from resolve, her cloak heavy with frost, road dust clinging to its hem. Elias Boone stepped aside, silence parting like a veil as she crossed the threshold. The girls didn't rush to her, not yet. Lila stared, as if testing the vision's truth. Ivy blinked, waking slow. Then a hand reached, and the woman knelt. My heart, my girls, she whispered, drawing them close, her breath hitching, as if it had crossed a continent to find them. Her sobs were silent, trembling, shattering the cabin's quiet, thawing something long buried. Elias stood by the hearth, watching from the room's edge, still, silent, seeing them meld into her like rivers to the sea. She kissed their hair, their cheeks, whispering, Lila, Ivy, my brave ones, my soul, you're here. Later, she looked up, her eyes locked on Elias, not soft, not fearful, but forged in trials ballrooms, ledgers, gravesides. Her face was pale, shaped by wealth but etched with worry, miles of relentless pursuit. Silver gleamed at her throat, a locket engraved with a rose. You saved them, she said. Elias nodded, found them by the trail. Coach was ablaze. She glanced at the hearth-carved toys scattered, quilts cradling her daughters. Her gaze returned, conflict flickering gratitude, guilt, defiance. I'm Abigail Harrow, she said. He tipped his hat, silent. She rose, steadying the girls. They seemed smaller beside her, but whole, no longer specters. I came as fast as I could. The driver died in the crash. A telegram reached me, but snow buried the lines past Bozeman. Elias offered a chair. She paused, then sat. Ivy climbed into her lap. Lila stood close. He poured hot water, adding honey. She took the mug, hands shaking. "The man chasing us," she said, voice low. "Thought he owned us, me, the girls, my husband's estate. He trailed us from Denver." Elias's brow lifted. Abigail's smile was faint, bitter. He didn't take refusal kindly. Elias didn't press. Her eyes haunted. Resolute said enough. Lila perched beside him, a quiet alliance. Ivy, nestled in Abigail's arms, blinked sleepily. The storm had faded. Outside was still. The fire sang softly. Abigail scanned the cabin tidy, patched, alive with books, carvings, dried sage by the window. "This is a good place," she said, almost to herself. Elias stayed quiet. "I never thought my girls would find safety with a man the world left behind," she said, not cruelly. "But they're more here than they were with me." The words cut, but she meant no harm. He saw it. She brushed Ivy's cheek. They were so quiet. Their father was loud, larger than life. They hid in his shadow. "Here," Elias said. "Shadows listen." She laughed, weary but real. When the girls slept, tucked in quilts, Abigail stood by the window, arms crossed against the cold in her bones. Elias joined her, silent. "You've raised ghosts here," she said. "They found me," he replied. "I just kept the fire." She studied him, seeking the man beneath the quiet. "Your eyes carry too much loss." He said nothing. She traced frost on the glass. "My husband bought me for my name. My father traded me for a deal. But these girls, they're mine. The only thing I ever owned." "They still are," Elias said. "Are they?" Her voice trembled, guilt heavier than doubt. "I sought safety in gold, in walls, in men who promised and lied. I gave them a world of crystal and lace, and in days with you, they smiled in their dreams." Elias stirred the coals. "I can't repay you," she said. "Didn't ask." "No," she said, "but I will." They didn't speak again that night. Morning found Abigail outside, frost dusting her cloak, her stagecoach waiting gold paint chipped, horses blanketed. The driver tended a small fire. She didn't acknowledge him. Elias handed her a mug. "They'll want to stay," he said. "I know. You'll decide." She clutched the mug. "I've never chosen freely. My life was decided before I was born. But here," she met his eyes, wind tugging her cloak. "I'm seen not just by them." He froze, caught by her words. The girls woke late, warm with sleep. Ivy showed Abigail the hair, said it guarded her heart. Lila told how the fox watched the door for wolves. Abigail listened, hoarding their words like treasures. By noon, she helped Elias cook, clumsy then sure, peeling potatoes, reaching for time. Her sleeves rose, showing pale arms, a faint burn scar. They ate at the table, Elias quiet, the girls weaving stories small, halting, golden. Lila shared a drawing, a cabin, 2 girls, a fox, a tall man, a woman in burgundy. Abigail traced it, smiling softly. That afternoon, she told them her youth no magic, only warmth-stealing apples from a neighbor's tree, dancing in her mother's shawl, riding a mule down a dusty trail. Ivy curled close. Lila dozed in her lap. Elias carved that evening a woman in a cloak, arm outstretched, calling or releasing. He kept it hidden. Next day, Abigail sent her driver to Alder Gulch for news. She stayed, hanging sheets, braiding hair, laughing when Elias salted the oatmeal. On the third day, she watched snow fall, soft as feathers. "We'll have to leave someday," she said. "This isn't a place for girls to become women." Elias didn't reply. They didn't need to go tomorrow. That was enough. That night. Elias stood under a sky ablaze with stars. Snow still, air sharp. Abigail joined him, their breaths mingling. "I don't know you," she said, "but you've built something holy here." "I just kept living," he said. "Some days, that's all." She looked skyward. Living's enough, with reason. A fox called distant. Inside, the girls dreamed. And in that vast dark, a woman in burgundy stood by a man of wood smoke and sorrow, love's shadow warming between them. Morning sky was iron gray, heavy with threat. Wind pounded the cabin, and Elias knew a storm loomed. He'd stacked wood, checked ropes, moved traps close. Inside. Abigail braided Ivy's hair while Lila sewed a scarf. Their rhythm a fragile haven. Elias stepped out for water, wind tearing his coat, and saw tracks, hoofprints, fresh, veering off the trail through pines, deliberate, searching. He returned, setting the bucket down. Abigail caught his look. "Someone's coming." He nodded, "From the hills. Not town." Her back stiffened, breath quick. Who will see? The knock was thunder 3 blows, demanding. Abigail froze by the hearth. The girls looked up, silent. Elias opened the door. A man stood in a tailored black coat, too fine for the frontier. His face was sharp, lips curled in a sneer. 2 others waited by a wagon, one with reins, one scanning the trees like a predator. "Elias Boone," the man asked, voice oily. Elias stood still. "I'm Gideon Vance, executor of the Harrow estate. I'm here for Abigail." She stepped forward, silent. Vance's smile was venom. "Mrs. Harrow, you've chosen charming hideaways." Her voice was steel. "I didn't hide. I left." Know the difference. Vance's eyes glinted. "Contracts bind you. The estate's unsettled. Your husband's will complex, especially for them." He nodded at the girls. Lila stood, fists clenched. Ivy slipped behind, holding her sister's hand. Elias blocked the door. "Talk in town," Abigail said. "Oh, soon," Vance purred. "But you'll ride with me. Places are ready." She glanced at Elias. "I'm not ready." Vance's smile tightened. "This isn't a visit. Abigail, you can't play hermit in a fairy tale cabin." "Legal duties await." Elias bristled at its tone, the way Vance's eyes raked the cabin like it was his to claim. Abigail stepped closer. "They're not pawns land, children. Me? You're here," Vance snapped, "with this man. What will court say that I'm alive?" Vance's jaw set. "Tomorrow, you're on that wagon. This farce ends." Elias's voice cut through, low, unyielding. "She goes when she chooses." Vance blinked, stung by the calm. "Who made you her keeper?" "Just a man tending the fire." Vance scoffed. "Keep your kindling, trapper. Stay out of matters beyond you." He turned, striding off. His men lingered, their stares cold, then followed. Abigail sank into a chair, her dress pooling like spilled wine. "He'll return," she said. "I know," Elias replied. She pressed trembling hands to her face. "I fled gold for quiet, and it hunts me." Elias said gold echoed, even buried. The storm struck that night, wind screaming like a banshee, snow battering the cabin. Trees groaned. Elias secured shutters, wedged the door. Windows shook. The girls huddled in quilts, eyes wide. Abigail brewed tea, hands steady, moving like she'd faced worse. After supper, Ivy asked, "Will he take us?" Elias shook his head. "Not unless you say." Lila's voice was small. "What if Mama has to never again?" Abigail said. They fell silent, understanding what wasn't said. Morning brought a ghostly light, ice cracking in the wind. Abigail saw the wagon, half buried, Vance's men under tarps, their fire a dying wisp. Elias stood beside her. "If you go, I'll drive you over the pass before the next storm." She didn't answer. Inside, the girls built a toy village animals, people, a tiny fire. Their laughter was a fragile thread. She turned to Elias. "I thought safety was gilded halls, velvet drapes. Now, I think it's being known, nothing more." He nodded. Once, that afternoon, Vance returned, alone, coat-soaked. "Time, Abigail," he said, voice ablade. She stepped out, shawl tight. "I'm staying." His eyes flashed. "Madness. You'll lose everything your share. The will, protection. I've lost what counts once. Not again." He advanced. "This trapper can't shield you. He's nothing." Elias stepped out. Slow. "He's true," Abigail said. "He has silence that heals, warmth in winter." Vance's face twisted. "You'll rue this." "No," she said. "I'll live." He spat, turned, and vanished into the snow. That night, Abigail sat by the fire, mug steaming. The girls slept, quilts starry. Elias gave her the carving a woman, arm outstretched. She turned it over, calling or letting go. "Maybe both," he said. Her eyes met his, firelight dancing. "I'm staying." His gaze softened. "We'll keep the fire." But the sky cracked before dawn, not thunder, but a deeper wrongness. Elias stood on the porch, coffee steaming, unease heavy. The ridge was too quiet, birds gone. Inside, the girls slept, cheeks rosy. Abigail mended Lila's coat, steady despite the storm in her heart. She glanced at the window too often. The fox didn't come. Lila noticed, perched on a stool. Red embers late? Elias nodded. Storm might have spooked her. He didn't believe it. By noon, clouds sagged, snow hard and glassy. Tracks would show clear now. Fire would race through dry pines. Elias checked the sled, counted bullets enough to guard what was his. That evening, Lila tugged his sleeve. "Someone's in the woods." He didn't question her. He gave Abigail the lantern, shouldered his rifle, and stepped into the cold, sharp as a blade. He followed the ridge, pausing at a lightning-split cedar. Smoke rose thick, black, deliberate, from a pile of branches, a pyre meant to choke. Gideon Vance stood there with two men, shadows twisting like wolves. They burned not for warmth, but to drive them out. Elias ran back, snow muffling his steps. Abigail had a bagwater, bread, blankets. How close, too close. She nodded. Girls, sled. He lifted Ivy, wrapped tight, clutching her hair. Lila, buttoned up, stood like a sentinel. "River path," Elias said. "Fire can't cross ice." He pulled the sled out. Abigail secured the girls, their breaths small clouds. She gripped his arm. "They'll follow." He didn't answer. The forest roared behind trees glowing, fire leaping, smoke curling like a noose. The sled flew over snow. Elias's breath burned. Abigail clung, eyes back, dress black with frost. Hoofbeats thundered, curses trailing. Vance rode hard, not just with fire, but with greed to drag Abigail to a gilded prison. They hit the frozen river as pines blazed like a fallen church. Elias turned, rifle up. Vance charged, coat open, face a mask of fury. "You'd burn the world for a contract," he roared. Elias stepped forward. "You lit the spark. Vance." "Own it. She's mine by law," Vance said, voice low. "Dangerous." "She's no man's ledger," Elias replied. "Not yours to claim." "She's a debt," Vance snarled. "You know what's at stake." Abigail advanced, cloak swirling. "You lose nothing real. You never owned me, not in truth." Vance laughed, venomous. "This trapper, he's a ghost." "Then I'm free," she said. "I died to your world long ago." Vance drew his pistol. Elias didn't flinch. Red ember darted from the trees. A crimson streak, her cry piercing. Vance's horse reared. His shot went wild, splitting the sky. Elias fired once, clean, sending the pistol spinning into snow. Vance fell, arm twisted, groaning. Elias loomed, rifle steady. "Come again, and I don't miss." Vance coughed. "She's worthless." Elias knelt. Then why the fire? Vance had no answer. Elias took Abigail's hand. The fire faltered, snow and wet wood smothering it. Smoke rose like a sigh. They left Vance, broken, and turned to the sled. The girls were silent, Ivy clutching her hair, Lila holding Abigail's hand. The cabin stood, snow aglow under the lantern's light. Later, on the porch, Abigail asked, "He'll come back?" "No," Elias said. "He's spent." She nodded. "I never meant to stay." "Best things happen that way," he said. She touched his hand. "Sure. You made them brave. You did. I gave them a hearth." She smiled. "Now what we build." Weeks later, they rebuilt girls painting the door. Abigail sewing curtains, Elias carving foxes, one with a curled tail. They planted sage by the window, stacked wood high. One night, under a sky like frozen fire, Abigail pressed a silver ring into Elias's hand, simple, warm. "Not his," she said. "Mine. No preacher, no crowd, just snow, fire, truth." They wed in the clearing, pines overhead, girls tossing dried sage on the snow. No gold, only light, silence, and love chosen freely. Months later, as spring thawed the valley, Lila found a letter in Vance's abandoned coat, hidden in the lining. Addressed to Abigail's late husband. It read, "Your wife and girls are a debt I'll collect. The estate's mine if they vanish." Elias burned it, ashes curling in the hearth. Abigail watched, hand in his. "You didn't let him win," she said. He squeezed her hand. Never would. They turned to their home, its new walls rising against the Montana sky. A vow stronger than gold.